Hey guys, and welcome to the last blending mode in our Lighten group. It's called Lighter Color. Now this is actually very similar to the Lighten blend mode. The only difference is that the Lighten blend mode looks at each of your individual color channels and decides how it's going to blend based on each of your color channels. And the Lighten Color blend mode combines all those color channels together and then makes its decision. So there's not actual blending going on here. This is a visible or not visible type of blending mode based on whether it's lighter than the underlying layers. Now, in my opinion, really good use for adding some interesting color to the shadows of your photos, which is really common for things like duotoning. So in this example, we're going to add some nice colors to the shadows of our photos simply by making them a lighter color. Alright guys, let's jump into Photoshop. So we're in chapter 3 here, lighter color, and let's go ahead and open up our image. So I'm going to hit F for full screen, and we're going to grab a solid color fill layer. Now I'm going to choose a really bright color to start with, and we're going to change it darker as we apply our blend mode. So let's go to our blending mode here. You can see we're still in our Lighten group, all the way at the bottom, Lighten Color. So basically anything that is lighter than this color, it's not going to show up. Okay, so over top of the windows, as you can see, this is just simply not showing up over the windows because it's lighter. Now, let's go ahead and double click here, and as I make my color darker, it's literally going to show up in less places. So I'm making it darker. Obviously the color is getting darker, but you can see now it's starting to show up in less places. And you can see in this case, like, you know, here at the top, it's not visible, or it's completely visible over here. And as I continue to go down, it starts to reveal itself. All right. Now you do get relatively harsh transitions. Let's go ahead and zoom in to this because this is, again, it's a visible versus not visible color effect. So you do tend to get relatively harsh transitions. You can see if I were to, for instance, change this to a screen blending mode, okay, you wouldn't see it on a per pixel basis. It would be a much softer transition. Here in lighter color, you can see it's definitely a harsher transition. So I think this works really well for adding colors to the shadows, and you want to choose a nice dark color. So let's go ahead and choose a dark color here, okay? And you don't have to go overboard with it. This is probably a little bit too light. Something like this can be really interesting, just adding a little bit of color to your shadows. And then it's totally up to you to choose what colors you'd like to work with. In this case, let's choose a little bit of, there we go. And you can have a more saturated color like this. I generally prefer a less saturated color because we are working with shadows here, so a little bit less saturated color just looks more realistic. Okay. So here we have a bluish purple effect going. You can have a green effect. Obviously, you can change the hue. I kind of like this magenta type effect with this photo anyway. So let's hit OK there. And you can see it's a subtle effect because we've made the color relatively dark and relatively desaturated. But if I turn this off and on, we can see it does, in fact, add some interesting color to the shadows of our photo. Okay, so especially here, we can see it just does a color replacement. If it's darker than this, it just lightens it up and makes it this color. All right. Keep in mind, as with any other layer in blending mode, you can lower your opacity to just get a little bit more of a subtle effect. And here we go. I think that looks great. So if I turn this off and on, it's pretty obvious, like there's the before and the after. It's pretty obvious that something happened. However, when I'm looking at this image as a whole with it on, it's not at all distracting. Maybe you wouldn't even notice that there's, you know, some dark purple in the shadows. If I turned it off and on, then you would probably notice it. But just as this, you may even not notice. And I think that's a really great way to color tone your photos. Just adding deep, dark colors into your shadows produces a really nice result. All right, guys, that's it for the Lighten group. So remember, everything in this group, black is going to be completely invisible, and your lights will be visible, and screen is going to be your most commonly used blending mode here. Color dodge will make things brighter and add a lot of saturated color. Linear dodge will make things much brighter and your colors will be desaturated. And then lighten and lighter color work very similar. Basically, it's visible or not visible based on whether the underlying layer is lighter or darker. We'll see you in the next video where we start our contrast blending mode group. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you then. Bye, everyone.